Yeah, the other ones are dry on my table.
And we're live. Hello, everyone. Happy
Hello,
Saturday to
everybody.
you. We're here and we're mostly awake. I am sort of mellow today because I'm enjoying my first free weekend of the year. I did not write, I did not edit. I might have done some research and listened to some educational podcasts, but you know
I'm gonna
what?
fix my eyeball.
Yeah, it's all good. I'm counting that a win. CJ and Sarah did me the great honor of waking up super early on a Saturday morning and joining me today. And we're going to talk about the business of writing because we talk about craft and marketing and inspiration and editing, but I don't think we ever looked at writing as a full-fledged business that someone has to manage or a career that they have to manage. So I thought it would be useful to talk about it in those terms a bit because
Yeah,
the artistic, creative, very fun and catchy part of it is all great, but then there's the nitty gritty of accounts and budgets and marketing, and people don't like to talk about that much because it's not as pleasant. Um, but I think it's just as important as the actual writing if you want to make a
No,
career out of
and
it.
I think some of the problem with talking about it in the first place is that a big part of the reason I apologize for my face. Holy smokes. A big part of the reason that some people will get into writing is because it's a very solitary activity. But it stops being that when you want to sell it.
yeah,
Yes.
So I think a lot of people hit that point and they go, "Oh shit, this is not what I wanted to be doing." Like
Yes.
I wanted to be by myself in my house writing.
Yes, true. And on the other hand, people just think it's enough to write a really great book,
Yeah,
get it out there, and it's pretty much built it and they will come, which doesn't
that might
necessarily
work,
work.
but not likely.
It's
Like,
very unlikely.
yeah, it could technically,
Yeah, it could.
but it's pretty freaking unlikely that you're just gonna hit, especially when you're publishing yourself. You
Oh,
know,
yeah, more so.
if you're publishing under a big publishing house and they decide they want to throw their money at you, psh, that might happen. But as far as like just you deciding to self-publish and everyone will just notice how brilliant I am, yeah, no.
Yeah, no, that doesn't really work. Hello,
And
Dorothea. Thanks
realistically,
for
you're not
joining
quite
us.
as brilliant as you think you are.
Probably
Like,
no. There's
probably
always room
not.
for improvement.
Right.
But I've recently, I've discovered the Creative Pen relatively late, and I've been going through their archive for a while now. And
What is it?
because the Creative Pen,
Okay.
it's a podcast run by Joanna Penn. She writes nonfiction as Joanna Penn and fiction as Jeff Penn, and she's a full-time author.
it's
And
really very good.
I've
I
heard of
started
it.
listening to it.
yeah, the podcast is great. But I watched one of her videos recently, and she was talking about authors being entrepreneurs, and she defined an entrepreneur as a person that takes their ideas from their head and they turn them into value, which they then share with the world, which is pretty much what you do with a book. You get an
Right.
idea, you turn it into a story of value, and then you share it with the world. So when I listened to that podcast, I thought, like, if more people would say this and say it often, maybe most authors would stop thinking about the business part of writing as being so daunting and unappealing.
Yeah.
And the other thing that prompted me to maybe discuss this was Derek Murphy talking about marketing and creativity and saying something that people tend to forget, that the best marketers are really creative.
Yeah, absolutely.
And again, that's like a mantra people should just read every day because then maybe we'd have less issues about, thinking marketing and the business side are the uglier parts of our writing career.
I don't know. I think it's also very intimidating to give someone a positive view of something you've done that you might not feel that positive about right now. Like, I have days where I'm like, I'm a hack. So it's really hard to tell somebody, like, you should go read my book when you're thinking, like, it's probably one of the worst books out there.
Yeah, we all have phases like that. I know I experienced that that period of self-doubt in a very specific time frame. I usually have my pre-order go up at about the same time I send the manuscript to my editor.
Mm-hmm.
But either way, sending the book to my editor is the point where this starts. And I start doubting it and thinking it's all bad, even if I have good feedback from my editor. Especially if I have good feedback from my editor, I still think it's crap. And it goes on up until release day. And a few days after, when I see books selling and people leaving positive reviews, it doesn't even have to be all reviews, just some of them to be positive. Then I relax and I remember, you know what, I really do enjoy this story. And usually there's a point, hi Jazz, there's a point between the book I published and the next one that goes into edits where I can relax and no longer see myself as a total failure and, oh my God, all my writing sucks. But because this year is different, I've not had that period of not doubting myself. But I think it's because I know it passes and then I still believe my stories are worthwhile. Because I know that point comes when I trust myself again, I'm better at marketing and promoting my books like I believe in them. Because ultimately, beyond all the self-doubt, I do believe in my books. Otherwise, I'd quit.
My problem isn't that I don't believe in them necessarily. But the problem is that, it stems partly from like who I am as a human. The most detestable, disgusting thing a person could call me is a liar. Like, I absolutely, I cannot tolerate that. I like, if I lie, you're going to be embarrassed for me anyway. Like, I'm not a liar. But I'm terrified that I'll tell someone they should read my book and that it's good, and then they'll call me a liar.
But they'd be wrong then, wouldn't they?
I can rationally say that, but
because that's not. It's not like in math where you have axioms that you just say and they are true.
Right, it's either true or false.
Yeah, this is not something that's a law or a rule or something that people use to understand the world around them. Of course, you believe your book is good. Otherwise, you wouldn't put it out there. And some people would think, okay, it didn't do it for me. It doesn't mean the book is good. It means I didn't enjoy it.
Right.
So you haven't actually told a lie, if you think about it like that. And I think if you're afraid of that, you have to remember there is no book in this world, none, that didn't have a reaction like, oh my God, this is crap. This is the worst book I've ever read in my entire life.
I rationally understand that, like, I'm an atheist and CJ is a Christian. And I rationally understand that when she tells me that, Jesus is the savior, she's not a liar, even though I don't believe that. And I get that rationally. And I get that she doesn't think I'm a liar when I say I don't believe in God. And that she doesn't think that I'm lying to her because I don't believe in something. But for some reason, once it's disconnected from someone I know personally, I can't, I just assume that they're going to be insane. And part of that's because the internet is full of insane people. So I think part of it's just the internet's existence has done this to me.
Yeah, well, to deal with that, you have to do two things. One, never go to Goodreads. Never.
Yeah, no.
Never in your life go to Goodreads. I mean, you can go there to update your own books. Like, I've read this and I thought it was good, and that's it. You go.
I had my books too, but
yeah, I just don't go there. The last time I
Yeah.
did it was fucking disheartening, so I'm not going anymore.
yeah.
And the second thing is just to keep doing it. It gets easier. It actually gets easier.
Yeah,
The
and
more
I
you
know
do
most
it.
things do. Like the more you're exposed to negative things, the more comfortable you are with that negativity. And it's one of those things where it's like you rationally know what you're doing.
Yeah,
And
you
you're
do.
telling yourself, like, knock it off.
Yeah, but there's also, the more you do it, there's something else that comes into play. And it's actually connected with the business part of what we do. Because when you don't think of it as a business and of the backbones that's built on, you just get stuck into this mentality of, oh my God, somebody said something bad about my book. And that's the only compass you have. You just have your reviews to base your success on. But then when you get into the business side, you have access to your sales, which sometimes tell a different story. It's like, okay, so 100 people bought my book. Of those 100 people, I got 5 reviews, let's say. Of those 5 reviews, 3 loved it, 1 thought it's okay, and 1 absolutely hated it. So of 100 people, 1 felt so strongly about it sucking that left a review. It's 1%. It's irrelevant. It's one opinion. It's not the majority. If you sell 100 books and you have 100 people yelling that the book is crap, then maybe you have a problem. But
on the other hand, if you have 100 people yelling that the book is crap and you have 700 people saying, "Hey, this isn't bad. I like it."
Yeah, no. I meant just like from 100% of people hating it.
Yeah.
That's what I meant. No, because usually in most cases I've seen the bad reviews are a minority. It's rare that you find a book where most people hate it.
Yeah.
It's universally despised.
Yeah. And in those cases where there's a book that's super divisive, you just have part of people who hate it with a passion and the other side that loves it to death. So
I think a lot of times when you're writing something that's going to be that divisive, that you're aware that like it's going to push some buttons.
Yeah. So you're already prepared mentally for it.
When people are one or the other on it, I think a lot of times that you're aware the subject matter is going to bring people to that.
Yes and no. I've seen things like that just happened by mistake. Which is okay, I guess.
I have to say that the thing that has always intimidated me, and I use the word intimidated because it doesn't scare me, it makes me a little nervous about the business of writing, is that when I took writing classes in high school and college, that was never, ever something that was talked about in any form. It wasn't until I went to my first, the writing conference there, and I went to in Indianapolis like 15 years ago. That was the first time I'd heard people who were experts in writing talk about the business of writing and talk about it as a business.
And that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I think that for a lot of writers, because our first exposure to the idea of writing is either in school, teachers who say, "Hey, you're a good writer," or somebody who says, "This was a good story, you should write books," or whatever. Our first exposure is always to the craft of writing and not to the business. And that business aspect can be incredibly intimidating because it's so unfamiliar in the process.
I mean, right now, if you start writing right now and you have enough access to the internet and nowhere to look, you find all that information.
Yeah.
But
you have to know where to look. And that is a big part of it.
Yes, you do have to know where to look. But if you stay long enough in a writer community, you'll run across that. I mean, it just takes a month or so until you start seeing that part of the business, because people share that content. What's not as good though is that most people do not like to talk about the business part of it. All they want to talk is about the craft and writing styles and creativity, and the business side and the marketing side are almost an afterthought.
Yeah.
And they're like the poor relative at the big feast who's wearing the wrong clothes and doesn't have the proper manners. That's how people look at it sometimes, or at least I feel that that's the case. And I know I was talking about this because when you get into conversations about whether you should or shouldn't write to market, you get people who are really passionate about not doing that. And then you realize there's a paradox you're dealing with, because most of these people write genre fiction.
Yeah.
Which comes with tropes and market expectations.
Yeah.
So it's not like you have no exposure to it, or like it doesn't influence you at all. I mean, you're not writing literary fiction, are you? You're writing genre fiction. So to me, it's like, okay, I do understand. I mean, and if you listen to all the people who talk about the business of writing, they will all tell you have to start with something you love. Nobody says just decide this day you're going to write this book that you absolutely hate, and that will work fine. That will work great. You're not going to hate yourself. You're not going to want to bang your head against the wall. You're not going to suffer from crippling depression. It's going to be just fine. Nobody says that. They just say, like, you know, if you love certain genres, within those genres, some stories sell better. If those stories appeal to you, why not write them? But it's always a work of passion. And I think as much as we dislike it, the business part of it is a work of passion. If you love writing so much and you love sharing your books with people so much, then business and marketing just help you achieve that faster.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know I started writing for the English market rather late. I was writing when I was 10 years old. I started writing in English when I was like 26 or 27. It was late. By the time I got kind of serious about starting to publish, being an indie author was a big thing. It was less of a stigma already.
Yeah.
And even then, like, I so regret not being exposed more to the business side of it, to the marketing side of it that works, and not just the blog tours that everyone was doing, because that's what you're supposed to do. I wish I knew more about how important data science and, you know, collecting data about everything and doing keyword research was for writing. Some of the things I did were kind of a natural response because I'd been in marketing and PR on a completely unrelated field. And I kind of guessed some things were needed. Like, I knew I should have an author platform before I published. So I knew enough to create a mailing list and an author site and an author presence before publishing. But I don't think I was that great at promoting it or using it at its best ability, because what I had to guide me was what other authors were doing. And for all of them, marketing was this chore that everyone hated.
Yeah.
And nobody talked to me about sales and publishing schedules and just the business of it. What it means to manage a career. What kind of budgets you're talking about. And I don't mean editing and cover design, because I could find that. I mean like investment in time and money and attending conferences and what works and what doesn't. I mean, I listened to an interview today where a pretty famous author said she's no longer going to conferences because they just don't pay off. They take a lot of time and the return is limited.
Yeah.
Nobody told me that. There were people trying to sell me on conferences, and I did go and I enjoyed them and I learned a lot. But were I to know exactly what I was getting into with writing from the start, I probably would have chosen different conferences, and I would have gone. I would have gone for a mix of writing and craft events and signing events with the business approach to writing. That's how I would have done it. So I think that's why I talk about it as often, because I did videos on marketing quite a bit, and I'm planning on doing more in the future because of that. I mean, if someone new starts now, there's so much information there, but when you join any author community, regardless of genre, that's not the first thing you see. You have to dig to find the business information.
And I also think part of that stems from what we were talking about before, in that most writers don't get into writing to be thinking about it as a business. What you were talking about is writing as an entrepreneurial job, and thinking about writing as entrepreneurial work. I think just because we're on this whole idea of self-promotion, self-publication as a viable route is still very new as far as like the history of modern writing, modern publishing.
Yeah, it is, but it's not very different in the traditional publishing world. You still have to manage everything. Yeah. You still have to file in your taxes and budget everything.
It is, but again,
and promote yourself. I mean,
I don't think that. How am I going to say this? I don't think that in the past, at least in the 20th century, I'm going to say, that aspect was information about that part of writing was readily available.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you there.
So this is like, it's one of the things about the internet is that information is so readily available. And yeah, you do have to dig a little bit for it.
Yeah.
But it's out there. And compared to like when I started becoming interested in writing as a career in college, which was 18 years ago, the difference between what was available information-wise then and how easy it was to access versus the availability and ease of accessing the information now,
yeah, it's huge,
is enormous. And I think that we as, I don't know about as a community, but I think that particularly for the wider community conscience, I guess, community understanding, that we haven't caught up to that yet. So I think it's important that if you are a writer, that is something you talk about on a regular basis. I want you to know, like, in the 3 or 4 months that we've been doing these live streams and building this community of writers on this stream, on Sarah's stream, like just this work, I have learned so much. Like I have like tripled my understanding, maybe more, of what it takes to become an entrepreneurial writer. Like just the sheer amount of knowledge that I've accumulated in the last 3 months has been enormous. And that I think is incredibly valuable.
Actually, it's the same for me because I did learn a lot through the people I met on YouTube and because of newer groups I joined and podcasts I started to listen to. And I think I'm better at filtering through everything, even for the business perspective and how you should write, how you should publish. There are so many different opinions and they all have merit, and I had no clue. Like, if I knew about all of this when I started, I would have done way better than I did, I think. I honestly think so. And I did my research then. I did try to see what other authors who were successful did, but what you see is not all they do.
Right.
And there wasn't as much information back then. And I think I didn't know I was supposed to search for that because nobody was talking about this much. I mean, the first time I saw or heard of someone talking about how they made it was a couple years ago, where to me, an A-lister and really good and prolific gay romance writer, L.A. Witt, just talked about it at a conference. And she said that, okay, she had the support of her husband who works in the military, but she was traveling with him, and she quit her job and she started writing, and she published a lot. And even now she releases a lot of titles. I don't know how many she has. I think only under one pen name she has like 200 books.
Oh, wow.
She started way back, and she did work with publishers for a long time. She also does indie releases. But she said you need to put out as many books as you can until you build a backlist, and then you make money for it. And she was like the only one I heard talking that said this was her job, this was her career, and she worked on it every day. And that's why she wrote so much. And I know she got a lot of slack for being so prolific, because apparently you can only be prolific if you write crap, which I think is stupid. I'm not saying it doesn't happen that people write the same book over and over again. I'm not saying it's not happening. But at the same time, the more you write, the better you get. So I don't see how you wouldn't improve. But yeah, she was the first person I heard talk about it. And I don't think anyone else was so into talking about it. Of course, we all complain about Amazon changes and dropping sales and whatever. But we don't often talk about it. Some things I just caught from random conversations. Yeah. It's how I understood that people who put out audiobooks, although the investment is pretty huge to create the audiobook if you don't go into a royalty split kind of a deal, it costs a bit to record the book. And despite that, they made their money back pretty fast on audiobooks.
Yeah.
And nobody said that specifically to me. I just caught it as a side conversation to a completely different topic in a thread in a group.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, it's a shame because I mean, in the beginning, I kind of dreaded this part too. I dreaded the marketing and the business side, although probably less than other people because I'd done it as part of my job for a long time. But yeah, now the more I think about it, the more I see the results, the more I get to test things and play with them and see what works better for me. I enjoy it. I honestly enjoy it. And I find pleasure in everything. Like, okay, marketing is sometimes hard and daunting, but I have this YouTube channel where I can do a lot of fun stuff and connect with people in a very different way. And I know recently I had a conversation about this with a friend, and it was about how you present yourself and strategies and marketing and promoting yourself. And there was a bit of a disconnect between how she saw things and how I saw them. And at the time, I couldn't put it into words why it made sense for me and why it worked. I just couldn't, because I didn't spend time with it, thinking about it. And then I saw this interview with a guy who says, "Oh, I'm writing my first fiction book." The guy wrote nonfiction. And I've got people already saying they can't wait to buy the book, and I don't get it because, it's my first fiction, probably is going to be shit. Or, not shit, but not the best. And he said something really important. He said, when it comes to authors, oftentimes people become your fans because they like you. and then they're interested in everything you do.
Yeah.
And whatever you put out, they want to try it. So that kind of made sense to me. And that's what I had in mind when I created this channel and when I selected what to do on the channel. But I couldn't put it into words. It took hearing it from someone else to understand what I was about.
Right.
And that was a random interview through dozens of others interviews on the business of writing, which I had no idea about until recently because reasons.
Oof. Sorry, I
What?
yawned and now my eyes are watering.
It's all good. It's morning.
Yeah.
You woke up super early. You're allowed to yawn.
And the cat puked all over my house, so
That
just
too.
a heads up, everybody, if you hear something that sounds like a cat's dying, he's not dying, he's just melodramatic.
There's this thing with pets where they get melodramatic and they're like the best actors ever.
Yeah,
My dog
like,
does that.
I'm dying!
Yeah, that, or oh my God, I'm so hungry. I've never eaten in my entire life, and you refuse to give me the bad food that won't do me any good.
Right.
And they have those puppy dog eyes, and they're like just begging for it and just drooling all over. Oh my God. And I don't know how it is for other people, but in my dog's case, this happens literally 5 minutes after he wolfed down his entire meal.
Yeah, that's how Crowley does too.
Yeah.
You never feed me! I'm like, you just ate!
Yeah.
But yeah.
But it's cute. Like it's good. It's cute. So yeah, I wanted to say something. I forgot my train of thought. It's okay. We'll get back on track.
Right? I derailed you. I apologize.
No, you didn't. I derailed myself because I was still kind of on track until I started talking about my dog, and then I lost it. so I kind of did it to myself. It's good. It's all good. So yeah, the thing is, like, I don't understand why it's almost taboo to talk about this. Okay, we don't want to talk numbers. Not everybody's comfortable talking numbers. I get that.
Yeah.
But it does sometimes feel that if you get a bit more practical in your conversations about not writing, the writing part is different, but about managing your career or trying to make it as an author, it's seen as like the ugly kid among the top models. I don't know. It's weird. Yeah, it's almost something you shouldn't touch because you'll get dirty. But the thing that I find most entertaining, just thinking back on it, is that there's a sort of a dissonance. Like, we don't want to talk about the business part and we think it's crap and dirty and we shouldn't touch it. But at the same time, we all complain about the evil day job and we want to become a full-time author.
Right.
I'm not saying there aren't cases of people who just want to do it as a hobby or as a side job and never intend to do it full-time. But I see this coming from people who want to make a living as an author, and they find the business part almost insulting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It just, I don't know, it puzzles me.
That goes back to the whole idea of people being so offended by like Patreons and things like that as well.
Oh God, yeah.
That was people are so offended by these things.
God, but I don't know, in the general broader writer community, it's not a big deal. But I remember a couple of years ago when this thing started, and it was in the smaller gay and LGBT fiction community. It was like you were scheming off readers or playing favorites, or I was like, I don't get this. You do understand patrons of the arts existed back in antiquity.
Right.
And writers and poets were part of the people who were supported by those patrons of the arts.
Right.
And I found it super weird because there's this...
Well, you absolutely don't have to support them.
Yeah, no, but no, it's not just about that. I saw this really popular photographer. Really popular. He's well known. He's got huge support for what he does. And he decides to put out a coffee table book, like a huge collection of photos printed and whatever. And he doesn't just produce it and then waits to see how sales go. No, he decides to crowdfund it. Crowdfund it, sorry.
Right.
It wasn't about founding it, it was about funding it. Anyway, and I see all these authors sharing it and contributing and thinking it's the best thing ever. But then if an author says they want to kind of crowdfund their writing through Patreon, no, that's bad. And I was like, it's still a book. It might have pictures in it, but it's still a book. You can't have double standards for that. You
Right.
either are for or against. You can't. I mean, and this was a guy who clearly didn't lack the budget for that, because he was like,
well,
a
and that's
well-known
the thing, is like nobody makes you patronize anything.
yeah.
So you cannot be interested and still not be offended by it. Like,
Yeah.
that's fine. You don't have to be interested for it to be a valid thing for someone to do. And that's a strange thing I think the internet kind of does to people, where, you know, you ask somebody like, what Mexican restaurant should I go to in this town? And everybody has a different favorite one, and the other one is garbage. And, you know, there's like this need for you to know the secret to something, and we don't. Like,
Yeah.
you don't know the secret to it. So if you're not interested, just don't be interested.
Yeah, that's cool.
I also
You
think
don't have
that
to like raise hell about it.
I also think that for some people, and particularly the idea of Patreon, is I don't know, maybe you've already said this while I was out, but
Yeah, no, go ahead.
The idea of Patreon is somehow cheating.
Yeah.
Because they don't understand what patronage is. They don't
Right.
understand that there is a vast history. Shakespeare had patrons. That's the only way he was able to write and to be as prolific as he was.
Well, and right at the same time.
Right. And that, I mean, patronage is a long and storied tradition of any creative endeavor. And if you want to make a business work, asking for patrons is not in. I don't understand the stigma that's attached to it. I understand that there are people who don't understand what it is.
Right.
And they think that it's a begging for money kind of thing. I think it comes from ignorance.
Then say Travis has books on drive-through. I don't know if you can do this on Amazon at all, but Travis has books on drive-through that are pay what you want. Sometimes, every once in a while, you know, usually people take them for no pay. Every once in a while, someone will pay him like $5 for something that was pay what you want. How is that any different, really? It's not, because they got a free thing in exchange for paying. So it's not any different. But for some reason, people have this weird block about it.
Yeah. And again, I think that comes from ignorance of what patrons are for and how important they are in creative communities and allowing creative communities to create and still eat.
Well, and I think the crowdfunding movement has kind of made people sour to some of those things too, because you do get crowdfundings to, you know, like I saw a crowdfunding thing like, I can't keep a job, but I really want to take my kids to Disney World.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true.
So those
But
things
it's
burn
different.
people off.
And what surprises me the most is that people are completely fine to giving money to these projects that sound cool, that have been scientifically debunked.
Right.
But the press gulps them down, and they just promote them on science magazines when it's impossible unless you change the rules of physics for that thing to work.
Right. Right.
I remember there was this this project, I think it was Kickstarter. It was a self-refilling bottle, which had it had a sort of a miniature Peltier device that would just take water from the atmosphere and use like solar powered batteries to turn that into water. And in theory, that can work if there is high humidity,
Right,
enough sun, and enough time. Because that would make like, I don't know, a drop of water per day.
right. It's not, there isn't,
And
like, there isn't that much water in the air in most places all the time.
And they raised a lot of money and they never made it. And there was a similar kind of device that they were trying to use in desert areas or in Africa, in areas with really low humidity, to just take water from the air and turn it into drinkable things. Like, how? There's not enough water. Like, by the time you're producing that water, everyone died of thirst. Like,
yeah. That's the problem with the desert, is there's no water in the air either.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, there's no water at all.
Yep. And like this arid area where there's just no humidity enough to create that. And oh my God, it's fine. We'll do this and it will work. Sure. And they are raved about in the press,
Right.
like crazy. And you get famous people supporting them when they're like an impossible endeavor, like the solar roadways. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Yeah.
That got state funding. And one of the selling points was that if you had a solar roadway, when it snows, you no longer have to defrost or just clear the road. And then they had this installation of about, like, I think it was a square meter or something like that. And it snowed. And it just completely broke the LED lights. And there was still snow there. So it's not working. It's clearly not working. Yet they've been on major shows, major science magazines, and people still believe in it. But if you as an author get $1 per month in your Patreon, you're a hack.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and like,
although people can see your end product. I mean, you put out books. I mean,
right. My current only patron on my Patreon is my parents.
Which is
and
cool.
I don't have any shame in that. But like, I would feel different if they handed me a $50 every month.
Yeah.
I would feel like they were giving me money in a different capacity. I would feel different about it. You know, and like my parents wouldn't, as a general rule, I mean, they wouldn't just hand me money for no reason, you know?
Yeah.
First of all, they don't have it like that. They don't, I mean, if I needed $20, they would, but like if I needed like a reasonable sum of money, they're not going to just hand that over to me. But they believe in me enough to give me $50 a month toward being a writer, and that means like a whole lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I realize that it's $50. It doesn't go very far, but
it goes farther than zero.
Right, but it means more to me than the $50 because my parents have now displayed to me that they have faith in me to some extent. You know, and these are the same people who told me to drop out of college when I told them I wanted to be a writer. So that's a big deal.
It is, and I think that.
But Sarah, I'm sorry to tell you that, but that wasn't bad advice.
That what?
That wasn't bad advice.
Except that my degree is how I've maintained my day job for all this time. I haven't had a day job that didn't require a degree the whole time I've been a writer.
True, but at that point in time, you probably had less of an obligation to create a certain amount of money per month, and you could have gone by with a part-time job and spending all your time writing.
No, because I had a full-time job and a part-time job in college.
Ah, okay.
But I already had both. So I was already broke by the time college hit.
And you also did college, so you could have just kept the jobs and write.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, though, is that like having a political science degree really helps me write horror novels.
Yes, definitely.
It's gotta be related, right?
Yeah.
It's worth the $100,000 I spent.
The thing is,
I haven't spent it yet. It's still sitting there waiting for me to spend it.
Just to make my stance clear, I have nothing against getting an education. Don't get me wrong. I just think you Americans pay a shitload of money for college.
I do not disagree with you. And I went to a private school like an asshole.
I'm sorry, I don't know how to tell you. That's just freaking insane. And you never get your money's worth. Like, never.
No, I owe $87,000 still.
Yeah, wow. Like, oh no.
And that's just my school loans. Like, that's only school.
Like, you're better off coming and living in Romania for 4 years and going to college. Like, it's way cheaper.
School debt here also, you can't write off in bankruptcy. And it's the only thing they can take your tax money for.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, that and child support.
Big business.
Yeah.
It's a big business.
But that's a little different. You're supposed to be supporting another human being. That's a little different.
Yeah, it is. It is. But I honestly believe you should always try to learn more all the time, but you don't always need a college to do it.
And
because
in fact, very rarely do you. With the advent of the internet.
By the time I decided I wanted to be a writer, though, I had already almost finished. So that was another thing. Exactly. At that point, if I had spent $70,000 and didn't have a degree, I'd be in a way worse position than I do with a degree at $87,000. So, I mean, reasonably speaking, at that point, it wasn't a good decision to quit. Yeah. But had I known when I started school that I wanted to write, I probably would have gone to a community college and got my gen eds and took some writing classes and started writing. Yeah. If I had realized that at 18 years old when I walked into a college.
Yeah, I wish I'd realized that I'd be better off writing fiction before college, because I went to college to study journalism. By the way, my dream in life was not to be a TV presenter. My dream in life was to be a war correspondent. Don't ask why. Yeah.
I'm glad you're not dead.
It was like the closest thing I could get to being in a special forces unit.
Oh, okay.
Did I mention I grew up with Bruce Lee films and Jean-Claude Van Damme and Sylvester Stallone?
Yeah, and I wanted to be in the FBI, so.
And all I wanted, FBI is shit. I just wanted, like Delta Force.
Yeah, no, I wanted to be in the FBI, and thank you, baby. I was gonna go get a law degree, and I was gonna go get in the FBI, and then I discovered marijuana, and I wouldn't be able to pass the lie detector test saying that you hadn't done it as an adult. So I was like, never mind.
The thing is, like, I first wanted to be in the Delta Force unit because that's the first I saw in a movie, and then I discovered Navy SEALs, and I was like, no, those are the best.
Yeah. Yeah, they are. Like, they just sneak up on you and you're dead before you even know anyone was there.
Yeah, and there were 2 reasons why I couldn't be part of those. I mean, besides the fact that I'm not American, there was an issue.
A small thing.
There was an issue of me being a woman.
Right.
And I totally understand why they have a problem with letting women be in those teams, because you have to be able to carry your unit mates over your shoulders, and most women can't do that to most men. There are
also a teeny tiny person.
And then I realized, like, I didn't know that as a kid. I had to wait to get to high school and realize I wasn't getting any higher.
Oh, this is as big as I'm getting, huh?
It was like at least 2 centimeters. No.
Yeah, I have the opposite. I was 5'10" when I entered high school.
I hate you.
Yeah, well, all of the boys were about your height at that point, so.
Oh, God.
I was like Gigantor. I'm walking down the hallways, like, looking over all these people.
No, I was like tiny McTiniest. That was me. So I realized army was not a career choice for me. Definitely not in Romania. Because they had no Navy SEALs, so screw them.
Also, I thought I was going to do basketball.
Yeah. Also, later in life, I discovered that I'm not the most agreeable person, and I don't deal well with authority. Like, if I respect you as a leader, you can tell me, you can go tell me jump off that window because you'll be safe, and I'll do it. But if you're just telling me to do stuff because of position you've got, and I think you're clueless and don't know shit about what you're supposed to do, I'm not gonna listen. And
I
then
have to like you as a person to respect you as my boss.
yeah, pretty much. And no, it's not just like you as a person. I also need to think you're good at what you're doing. Because you can be the nicest person if you're a total disaster at your job. I won't respect you.
I have to know you're not a garbage person, though.
Yeah,
because
that's true.
No matter what, if you're a garbage person, it doesn't matter how little your job seems. You can really fuck up my life with that job, no matter how small it all seems.
True. Yeah. True.
So, like, I have to be able to trust that you're not just in it for you.
Yeah. So, yeah, that was like the thing that told me that maybe an army-related career was not the best choice for me personally. Because I had to make that decision before college. That was my last time when I had to decide what I wanted to do, because I wanted to study communication sciences and journalism. Hi, Trinda. And I had two choices: going to the state university I'd chosen, which was really complicated but good and great, a great choice, and then the university that belonged to the Romanian Secret Services. So something like an FBI academy, I guess. They had this communications section that I could apply to. They did not have a height requirement. I had someone who could recommend me, because you do need a recommendation, and I had to pass a physical test. But at that point, I was fairly sure I could, because I was pretty sporty growing up. And in high school, I took karate lessons for about 2 years. And those, I mean, besides the self-defense part, they had a pretty drastic stamina and strength building regimen. So at that point, I could do like 100 push-ups, no problem.
Wow.
Which, yeah. I mean,
I don't like to even think about 100 push-ups. It makes my arms tired.
So after the initial couple of months, when you got to a certain level, you went into this group where all you did was kata and strength. And we learned new kata. And for every freaking mistake you did, you had to do 50 push-ups on your knuckles. Mm-hmm. Just the first 2 knuckles.
Yep, we had to do that taekwondo.
Yep, and if we were just learning, it would be just like, yeah, well, in between practices of kata, let's just go and do 50 push-ups. Yeah. So in like 2 hours of training, twice a week or 3 times a week, I don't remember, I did like 250 push-ups.
Yeah, I think Taekwondo was the first time, because I was like 8 or 9 when I was in Taekwondo. I think it was the first time my muscles ever really hurt like they do as an adult. And I was just like, oh God, this is what you guys mean. Because as a kid, your muscles don't hurt. Like sometimes you'll have like growing pains or whatever, but it's not that like I've overdone it and my muscles don't want to work for me anymore.
No. For me, like having muscle pain was kind of a given, because I was always kind of crazy and didn't know when to stop. Because apparently I didn't realize that the moment it got warm, if you take your bike out and ride for an entire freaking day, you won't be able to move for 2 days.
Yeah.
And the first time it was a surprise, but the second time when I did it, I was just stupid. I was really active and sporty up until I finished high school and went to uni. And even then, I randomly walked for like 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah.
because I liked it and it was nice. But now I'm not in that shape anymore.
Yeah.
Like if I can do 10 push-ups, I'll call it a good day.
I don't think I can do 10 push-ups in a row. I can get 10 push-ups done today if you challenge me to that.
I can still do them for one single reason. Aris.
Yeah.
He's a 90-something pound dog that I have to handle. So he built some upper body strength for me in the 5 years I've had him. So
I'm also like, you know,
also
80 pounds overweight. So that doesn't help push-ups.
True. Also, I should mention I live on the third. No, wait. By American rules, is the 4th floor.
Okay.
There is no elevator. And all the grocery shopping, I have to carry up 3 flights of stairs. So that helps too.
We actually picked a ground floor apartment partly because I told Travis I'm not carrying no damn groceries up these stairs.
Yeah, I know. I get to do that a lot. And the problem is I'm lazy. So I don't have to go twice to the car. Yeah. So I randomly carry like...
You've got like up to your shoulders and bags.
Yeah, and I'm like 6 by 2, like 12 kilos in one hand. So that's what, 30 pounds?
Something like that.
Less, like 26 pounds.
Yeah.
Like, 12 kilos in one hand and another 10 to 12 in the other, and just going up the stairs. And that's a nice workout. I mean, that's... So yeah, like I said, I studied journalism, thinking I would, I mean, I knew I wanted a writing career, but I only wanted that because no one ever told me I could just be a writer and make money doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially in Romania. No one told me that.
I thought I was going to write literary fiction, and then I found out that nobody pulls out anyone else's toenails in literary fiction, so I decided I couldn't do that.
I think the reason why I love sci-fi and paranormal and fantasy so much is because I like to play with mythology and history and put a new twist on them. And in literary fiction, you can't just play on the common conception of angels, for example.
Yeah.
Right.
And I played with angels a lot. I don't know why I hate them so much that I twist them. But yeah. And the thing is, had I known what I know now, or had I had the opportunity to just decide from start that I just want to write, fuck everything else, I would have still gone for a degree. Because, you know, it was free if you were good enough to pass. I mean, the way it works in Romania is you take an exam. I mean, first you have to pass what I think it's SATs for the US.
Yeah.
It's called baccalaureate here.
There's actually 2 of them, but
yeah. For my year, we had 6 subjects, 7 exams. And in order to pass, you have to, I think you have to have a minimum of 6 out of 10 overall average. And they're all, I mean, it's 1 week for all these exams. Some are oral and the others are written. And you pass that, and when you pass that, you graduate high school. And after that, you go to take the exams for university. And everyone wants the state universities because those are the best.
Yeah.
There are private universities, and some are good. Most cases not. But anyway, for the state university, they have a limited number of free spots. So you have to have a high enough grade to qualify for those. And it's pretty high competition in the big university centers, because Bucharest, Cluj, and Iași, I think, are the most coveted ones. And I wanted Bucharest because it's like the capital, most opportunities. So I'd still have gone to college, but, well, university. At that point, it was a 4-year university. Now we have the college thing where you do 3 years of college and then 2 years of master's degree. But that's a recent change. I would have gone into a languages degree, something like foreign languages, I would have done that. I think it would have helped a lot more with what I wanted to do. But, well, such is life.
Goodness,
I think that's
sorry.
no problem. I think that's why I insist. I feel like I'm insisting a lot on talking business and marketing and, you know, these aspects that make or break your career, because you have to be aware of them.
Right.
Because I wish I knew more about these starting off, and there was no such information. And I enjoy talking about craft and inspiration and all of that, but I do enjoy the business part too. Although it took years for me to get to enjoy it. I won't lie. I hated it at first. I really did. So yeah, I don't know. It's a shame in a way that we actually have all the information, but we don't know exactly where to find it because it's not popular. Because I feel it's a popularity contest, what you see first.
Yeah.
Kind of like with the Facebook timeline. If people interact with a certain type of post a lot, that's going to be the first that bombards you.
Mm-hmm.
And the less important to Facebook information that is critical for you will be buried. Yeah. And I feel it's like that with the business of writing versus just writing as a craft. One is everywhere. You can find it easily. And the other is kind of something you have to dig up and discover on your own.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which sucks. So our chat went quiet. I was just checking the chat now, and like everyone said hi, and then it definitely went quiet. Okay, we have a question. Just when I was saying the chat was quiet, Trinda said, "Do you think you enjoy the business side of writing more now because it has gotten easier over time because of the tools available?" Yes and no. I think I enjoy it more now because I have a better idea of what I'm doing. I've learned a lot of things, and I don't feel like I'm just wasting my time on stuff that doesn't work. And I think it's because I learned to look at the connections I make through it more than anything else. Because let's take YouTube, for example. It was a social media channel, and it was part of my marketing. But I've enjoyed it terribly, and I've met great people, and I've had really interesting conversations. And that kind of proved true for a lot of avenues that I pursued. So because they come with these side benefits that make everything better, I enjoy it more now. And I enjoy talking about it. I really enjoy it when people comment on a video I made about marketing or whatever and say, "Oh my God, this is so helpful." I feel like I've served the purpose. I feel like I've helped someone. And there were a lot of people along the way that helped me. So I'm so happy to be able to return the favor. Even if it won't be to the same people who helped me, because, you know, they already know what they're doing. It's fine.
You're paying it forward.
Yeah. Pretty much. And I think that's why I enjoy it so much. Also, I think it has a lot to do with seeing results. The moment you start seeing some results of all your hard work, you're more enthusiastic about it. You're enticed to try harder.
Yes.
Because some of the work is it's hard. And I've been thinking about how to properly segment my mailing list and how to make sure that every place that people sign up through goes into a different place and they get a certain welcome sequence and it's all streamlined and I don't annoy people and whatever. I've been working on that for 2 freaking months. I've still not come up with a optimal solution. I still have to think about it. I constantly think about it. It's hard. It's complicated. It really is. But then all it takes to make it all easier is getting a reply to a newsletter I sent by someone saying, "Oh my God, I'm so happy this book came out." Yeah, Trinda, it's freaking annoying, the newsletter segmentation part. But I think I'm going to film it while I do it and explain my process a bit, because maybe it will be helpful for other people, because I've been struggling with it for months. And things like that I would need more information on and tutorials and whatever, and nobody does them. I don't know why. Probably they do it, but they charge for it.
Right.
I don't know.
Probably.
Yeah. And the other thing I wanted to say, I wish there would be more information about where to find help and mentorship and whatever, because I've seen this a lot. People investing in programs and formulas and mentorships that are supposed to help them, and I look at them and go, wow, there are literally 3 books I could quote to you right now that would help you more than that, I don't know, course you're taking, and it will probably cost you like $10.
Right.
Yeah.
And 2 years ago, I wouldn't have known that. I would have thought that course is the best thing that ever happened on the entire planet, because at least it had some information on what interested me, which I think is a shame. Not that there's anything wrong with mentorship and courses. Some people just need other people to hold their hands and don't like to self-study. That's fine too.
Yeah.
Show my floors to camera.
I don't know what that means.
I don't know. Like the stairs, the flights of stairs? I don't know.
I don't know what that means either.
Sorry, Melissa, you have to be more specific, because I don't know.
We're all confused.
My floors. Like the floor is there. It's just basic parquet, and there's the dog there if you want to see him. Hey, Alice. He's made the total mess of my floor if you're interested, because it's rained outside. Hey, babe. I should just film him for a couple of hours, and I'd probably get more subscribers.
Probably.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, yeah, no, we're getting weird.
Yeah, no. My feet are fine where they are. I don't have cool socks or anything. Yeah, so where were we? I lost my train of thought again.
Yeah, I think Jasmine's right.
Yeah, Jasmine, I think you're right, and she could just stop, or we'll see. If needed, I will have my first ban from chat moment, which I'm so not looking forward to.
Yeah.
Let's see. I can check.
I looked her up. She has a page, but
yeah. Okay, whatever. We'll see how this develops. I'm guessing.
It's ridiculous. Anyway.
Yep.
We'll just pretend.
So back to the business of writing.
Yeah, go back to the business of writing. What's the part you find? Let's try to get into this. What's the part you enjoy about it and the part you dislike the most?
So let me start by prefacing that it never occurred to me before you said this, that you have to start marketing yourself way before you publish, or you're ready to publish, before you release. So you talk about your newsletter. How did you start your email list?
Okay, so okay, just 1 second, please.
Done.
I just put her in timeout. I did not block her, but I put her in timeout. I'm sorry. She's got 6 minutes of timeout. If she doesn't stop, then I'll just block her.
This is how our days go.
So the thing with
that's amazing.
Yeah. So how I started is first I built my author website. I got that and the Facebook page, and about a month or two in, first I focused on building some traffic to the blog and the site. So I would write blog posts and then share them. And then I wrote this free short story, which I should go back and rewrite and re-release because it was a cool concept, but I was sucky. And I released the first half of this free story when I hit 100 likes on Facebook. And then the second half when I hit, I don't know, 500 or 1,000 likes on Facebook. And I kept promoting that to my own profile and on the website. And I used my website for people to download it. And then I created a newsletter. And I just let people know I had it, and just left a subscription box on the sidebar of the site. Were I to know more about this, how I'd go about it now would be the same thing. Offer a free short story, but offer it to people who subscribe to my newsletter. And that way I can get a base that I can communicate with, share news about my writing, share snippets, and give them advanced access to everything I do. And then when I finally release my first book, these people will be the first to buy it and support me. I was clever enough to know I needed a newsletter, but I didn't exactly know how to properly grow it. So I had about 150 subscribers to my newsletter up until last year in February, when I decided I should work on that. And I joined Insta Freebie and joined some huge group giveaways and things like that. And in the span of a year, because it's now February, I got to 2,700 subscribers.
Wow.
But all of these people came through my LGBTQ fiction. And now, because I want to relaunch and build up my urban fantasy, but the non-LGBTQ fiction side of my writing, I want to separate that into a new list. So this is the first level of segmentation. And then my LGBT fiction group of newsletter subscribers, I want to segment them into groups based on where they sign up. Because if they come to Insta Freebie, they should go to a group. If they come to my site, they should go to another group, and they should receive different emails from me. They all get a free book when they sign up, but the message that's sent with it, it's different, because on Insta Freebie, people want the book, so they subscribe for that, and they don't know me. But if they come from the website, they clearly have a better idea of who I am and what I do, because they've been to my website. Right. So it needs to be segmented. So
what
yeah,
kind
yeah, go ahead.
What kind of content do you put on your website? Initially, what kind of content did you initially put on your website, or would you recommend putting initially?
It depends on what you want to do with your website. I didn't have a clear strategy starting out, but I want to change that now with the new website, and I want to focus it more. I mean, I kind of want to separate it, because I wrote about my books and my story with writing and inspiration, and the announcements about my books. But when I first started, I didn't have the Eyes on Books blog, so reviews of books I'd read and everything like that went to my blog as well. which can work, but for me it was easier to just separate them. And I also had this entire section about tips for authors. And I talked about tools they could use and marketing and just getting over writer's block or avoiding it completely. And I had this popular how do you call it, series of blog posts that was called From Authors to Authors, and I had other authors guest post and offer advice to authors, and each would choose an area of their where they were experts, like writing blurbs or publishing contracts or world building, things like that. And the other thing I did, which I didn't do consistently and I hope to do better this year, was to create a free serial on the site. So it's a story that they get a chapter of every other Friday. And every other Friday turned into a couple times a year because Alina didn't have time. The truth was Alina wasn't disciplined enough. But I used that. And at the end of it, I had this message that if you enjoyed this story and you want to support my writing, here are my paid books available on Amazon. And that series was pretty popular. I'm just sorry I didn't continue with it, but I will. I have like 10 chapters that I've already outlined. So it's just a matter of me getting to writing them. But yeah, that's what I did. The thing is, you have to come up with a frequency of posting. I mean, you don't necessarily need to have a blog. You can have just a standard website where you put information about yourself, your books, and news related to your books. That's it. You don't have to have anything more than that. But what I would recommend is to build the site around your author brand, not around one book. Because if you build it around your one book, then when you launch the second one, you'll have to redesign everything. I mean, if you're Pierce Brown and your publisher creates a website dedicated to your series, that's great, but he also has the Pierce Brown website.
Right.
In case he decides to write something else at some point. And I think that's it's the same thing for Facebook pages. I don't think it's a great idea to create a Facebook page for a book or a series, unless you plan on writing a series your entire life. I feel like it's a waste of time because you'll have to have a page for that series, a page for you as an author, and a page for any subsequent series you write. When it would be just so much easier to have an author page. I mean, if you have the budget for it and the PA to manage 5 Facebook page, more power to you. But most times we want to keep it low budget.
Right.
So, yeah. Says the author who consistently ignores her Facebook page. I actually have I have a habit in Habitica that I'm supposed to build to post more on my Facebook pages. I need a constant reminder that I have a Facebook page and I should go there occasionally. So I feel like, you know, there's a saying in Romania, do what the priest tells you, not what the priest does. I think that applies to me. I'm really great at giving advice. I'm shit at following it most times. Because I know what I'm supposed to do. I think
that's true for all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But speaking of that, like my new schedule has 2 hours a day that are dedicated to all things marketing. So posting on social media, posting on groups, filming and editing YouTube videos. And I find it that if I block the time for it, I'm better at doing it. So that's what I did. I blocked time for writing, I blocked time for editing, and I blocked time for the marketing side. And yeah, that works. Because otherwise, marketing and the business side become this afterthought that you do whenever you need to, and it's rushed, and it's not very cohesive. So let's see how that goes.
It doesn't become part of the whole. It's something that...
Yeah. You have to look at it like an intrinsic part of your writing career. Otherwise, you'll just postpone it forever and just do the bare minimum to survive. And that's it. Trinta, do you mean the new changes on pages and algorithms and stuff? I don't use my pages much, so I can't say, but there's less people that see my posts and things like that, but I still get interaction to my Facebook page. I will have to test it out over a longer period of time. What I intend to do is upload video there. Like, instead of sharing my YouTube videos, I want to just upload a version of them to my Facebook page, because apparently video content is king now. And I'm thinking, if I do that, and I want to try to use that as advertising material too, because I have the trailer for Angel's Feather, and I want to upload that video and see if it works as an ad. I just want to use that and the quote, like a larger quote from the book, and the link to the Amazon page, and that's it. And see if it works as a Facebook ad. But I will need like another week to start working on that, because I bought a book about Facebook ads, and I want to read that first. It's specifically written for authors, so if I learn anything from that, maybe I'll give it a try and see how it works. But yeah, I feel like going forward, I will need a lot more video content on my page so that I can get more engagement, and yeah, maybe not need to invest a lot of money in it. But I know, just as a side note, I know of authors who don't even have newsletters, and they only use Facebook ads and Amazon ads, and that's their sales funnel. And they make a living of it. I just haven't learned the secret spell for that. Because I feel like Facebook ads are a little bit of voodoo and black magic and rocket science and astrophysics, and then a shit ton of luck, and then it works. That's how I feel about it, because I don't get it. I don't understand what works and what doesn't work. So that's why I bought the book. Hopefully it will help me, but we'll see. For now, I'm happy with my normal profile, I guess. And yeah, it does seem weird. I mean, Facebook just changes algorithms all the time. And I think that's the reason why I didn't take the YouTube changes to heart. It's because, well, it's YouTube. I didn't actually invest money in building my website or in building my following like I did with Facebook, because I had Facebook ads building that page just to get more likes from people who are interested in books and stuff like that. Right. And I invested money in that, and then Facebook changed the rules, and I couldn't reach that audience that I worked on and paid for. So that seemed way worse than the YouTube thing. Because like with YouTube, yeah, sure, there are issues when your subscribers don't get notifications. But if they go to their subscription page, they will see your video there.
Right.
With Facebook, it would be like going to your subscription page and only seeing 5 videos that were the most popular. But, you know, it's free. And when you use free platforms, they come with their set of rules and their limitations. And it's why I think a website is important, because YouTube might go away, Facebook might go away, but your website is still there and people can find you.
Yeah.
So I'm a firm
Plus you have a
believer
lot
in
more control over where things are. And you can use YouTube and Facebook as supplements to that rather than the whole of the and being subject to other people's algorithms or other people's
and I think
go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just, that was the end of my sentence.
Okay. I was going to say that I'm a firm.
That was the end.
Yeah, no, it was. I'm a firm believer in having one part of your author platform that's under your control and that people can't take away from you.
Yeah.
Because I mean, let's say, that's right, Rinda. The website should be the base where people can go and find everything else you do. Because like the worst that can happen is that your web hosting provider just goes under. Let's say they disappear, but you have some notice, and all you have to do is change everything to a different provider. You still have your domain, you still have your content, it's all there. You can back it up. It's great. Like there's not this one company that can shut down and then you lose everything, like it happens with Facebook or YouTube or things like that.
Right.
Well, I hate to do this, guys, but I gotta get off here and.
You have to run because you have a game. Yeah, and I think as we've been, you always have to back up, Trinda. I think we should like close it at an hour and a half.
Okay.
Because we've been on last night for a bit and today, and we'll be back next week anyway. So if you have any more questions about all we've talked about today, please feel free to leave them in the actual comments and we'll reply as soon as we can. Thanks, guys, for coming today. And if you have anything to plug and promote before we go, that would be great.
Inside Darkness is available over on Amazon, so you should go pick that up.
Yeah, you should. I already bought it, and you guys should buy it too.
See? Alina bought it.
Yes.
Why aren't you buying it?
I bought it.
You bought it a long time ago. That doesn't really count.
I did. I bought it a long time ago.
But that's not about all.
But it doesn't mean I didn't. I have it. It's on my shelf in my Sarah section.
Wow, nice. Bye, Jazz. We'll see you next week.
Bye, Jazz.
Bye, Jazz.
Bye, Trinda.
I've already promoted everything on Friday's video, so that will be it. But please remember that next Friday you can see us on Sarah's channel at 7 p.m. Central. I got it right this time. And then we'll see you here next Saturday as always. And if you want to see how my week went and how my crazy schedule is panning out, tune in tomorrow for my new vlog and you'll find all about it. Thanks for being with us today so early in the morning, and we'll see you guys soon. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.